on this computer. There we go. All right. So welcome to Raise the Bar, the Sky High and Fly Jump Camps podcast. I'm your host, Troy Haynes, and we are talking for the second time with Marcus Gelpi. Marcus is graciously spending his time with us and graciously afforded me another 15 minutes as I was stuck in traffic on the crazy freeways here in LA. Marcus, how are you? It's been a while.
I'm great, honestly. I don't think I've ever been better in my life. I'm great.
Well, so what is the latest going on with you? You sent me on your text. You told me that you're going to be going to Kansas State, and
Yes.
that's exciting news. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I actually leave in 30 days now. Just under a month. I'm going to be a mid-year transfer, so I'm going into Kansas State, and I'm going to be competing this year.
Awesome. So you've done your 2 years at the JC level, right? So you have 2 years of eligibility left, I'm guessing, or is there any special third year with COVID?
I had a COVID year, so I technically have 3 years and a red shirt available.
Wow, awesome. So if you needed it, you could take a year to acclimate, and then you could still have another 3. That is awesome.
Yeah.
I wish, this is a quick side note because I want to talk to Marcus more than about myself, but I still have this pathological hatred of the fact that I never redshirted. I went straight through when I got to UCLA. I walked onto the track team, and then, I was kind of under their radar. They didn't really care about me. And it wasn't until I shouldn't say that. I mean, they took care of me and everything. They wanted me to succeed, but it took a couple years, and so I had that rough adjustment year like everybody does. And then, I basically wasted a year and didn't redshirt. And I wasn't on the radar. I wasn't a scholarship athlete. So nobody was really watching me and saying, it's been a terrible year. Why don't we just redshirt you and, whatever. So I think my senior year, when I jumped really well, we went to the NC2As. We came in 8th for the first time in a while for UCLA. And then the next year, right after I graduated, they won their last NC2A title. And I would have been, my brain goes, I should have been part of that NC2A title team if I had a redshirt. Right. So anyway, hopefully you'll have a lot more wisdom than I did. I didn't know anything at that time. So tell us about how did this come about, Marcus? Because I know last year you were up and coming on the JC level. You got up to 7-1, and I know you made your travel team from Puerto Rico, and you went and had some big meets. So catch us up on everything.
Yeah, definitely. So you want to know how the Kansas State thing came apart?
Yeah. Because I'm sure it has to tie in with how well you jumped, in these other meets and everything too. So go ahead.
Definitely. So it was after my junior college season, which I was very proud about because I finished undefeated. I didn't lose a meet at all year.
Right.
And I had a new PR of 7-1, so I was excited about that. And it came along super unexpected because I was during the season, I was talking to a lot of coaches. I was super excited to figure out where I went next, and then out of nowhere, it just got cut cold turkey.
Yeah.
Stopped hearing from a lot of coaches besides maybe 2 or 3. And I was about to sign. I was maybe 3 days away from signing. I was like, I need to just commit somewhere before I'll waste these opportunities,
Right.
I don't want to do any coaches disrespectful or anything because I appreciate everything they did for me. And at the time, I probably emailed every single Power 5 coach just trying to get on a team, trying to do anything. Right. And there's just one coach who I just didn't even bother talking to, which was Clifford Velta. I was like, he's not going to be interested in me. He always gets the top guys or whatever. Because, I've done my research on him. I understand. Right. And out of nowhere, I get a phone call at one of my practices. I was getting ready for the knockout meet in the Bahamas. I get a phone call, and it's from Cliff. And he was basically saying that, he found out about me through Jeremy Fisher from when I was jumping in San Diego.
Right.
Chula Vista meets. He found out through him because he was looking to pick up, a mid-year transfer guy. He had some extra scholarship money. So it was like that. And I was like, oh, this sounds great. I told him I was on the verge, about to sign, but, I'd love to take a visit or whatever.
Right.
And he was like, perfect. I'll come out to you, and then you can come out to the school. So he flew out to California and watched me practice. but we couldn't have any contact because it was after he booked the flight. He found out it was dead period, so he's like, I'll just come watch you, like, but we can't have any contact. So that was
Right.
kind of weird, but we all made up for it when I flew out there to
Right.
visit. So that came across super wild. I was like, this is like basically most high jumpers' dream coach, like
Mhm.
who just someone who really knows what they're talking about and stuff like that. So I mean, it just came across just very unexpected. And I think that kind of makes it better.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, that's the unexpected ones, right? So where was the place that you were thinking about signing before K-State came along?
I was maybe a few days away from signing to Long Beach State. I was
Uh-huh.
I was in love with Long Beach State. And I still
Mhm.
am. Like the program, the coaches, all the athletes there. I get along with everybody there. It's a
Right.
good
Right.
program.
Well, you would have been a good training match with Kyle Jenkins there. That would have
Yeah,
been
no, he's a great friend of mine. We
awesome.
talked about it
Yeah.
often.
Yeah. Well, I actually tried to get that job, the jumps and multi job. So
Yeah.
I'm still a little bitter, but no, I was like, I'm like, oh my gosh, as soon as I heard about it, I applied and I went through and I made it, through a couple steps, got to the last step, and then I was like, hey, they're asking me about, can you recruit? I'm like, recruit, I can get you, I talked to Kyle, but I was like, hey, there's an opening here, and I was doing my best to network and everything, but it didn't quite work out. So, wow, that would have been an amazing combo. It would have gone from Kyle. Who did he jump with? He jumped with Tyler
Yeah,
Cash,
Tyler.
right? So it would have been those two were up together at San Jose State. So then they would replace Tyler with you. That'd have been amazing. So, all right. So Long Beach State was off your list, and then they were on, but then they got written out by K State. Now, when you went, was it freezing cold like it is now? Did you
Not
get
at
a
all.
chance to see the snow on the ground?
No, I've still never seen like snow actually fall from the sky. I've seen it on the ground, like driving through it, but I've never
Mhm.
like seen snow fall from the sky. But when I went up to Kansas, it was beautiful. It was amazing. It was right after I got back from the Bahamas.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
So
it,
you were
it
there
was
in,
just a
in the
time to really
summer when it
Yeah.
was, yeah, okay. So did he try to prepare you mentally for what it might be like to train in the
Yeah.
cold fall and everything?
Yeah, he told me a lot of like the stuff that they'd be doing and precautions like the extra long warm-ups in the winter and indoor
Right.
stuff like that. All stuff I wouldn't really be used to. So
Right. Right. What was the indoor facility like? Do they just jump on a basketball court like everybody else, or do they have an
no, they
actual
have so
turf
their
and
football team has an indoor facility, and then when their season's over, it gets taken over by track. But they also have like their own indoor track. I kind of explained that best. So they have their own indoor track, but it's going to be remodeled.
oh,
So
okay.
after this football season, they're going to be using the football indoor
Right.
thing.
Right. So you'll just have turf. You won't have like a what do you call it? Synthetic.
Well, I'll have a full on like banyan track. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, tell you what, that's it's weird. I know for us out here in California, because I remember growing up, like the big meets in California when I was in high school. This shows you how old I am. I was a senior in 1982. So as in 81, as a junior, I think I jumped 6'8". And then they had this thing called the Sunkist meet. So the LA Sunkist or just Sunkist. And the indoor venues down here, no offense to whoever ran them at the time or whatever, but it was terrible. I absolutely hated what it was because it was indoor, it was cramped, everything's way smaller than you think. And like my run used to be 20 feet wide, which is really wide, but I didn't have
yeah,
anybody tell me any different. So it was 20 by 60 my junior year. And then we get there, and the standard is like 12 feet from the end of the wood. And over on the other side of the wood is a drop and concrete. So I was like, I'm like 8 feet short here. Can we move this? No. I was like, okay. So, and I had broken my hand playing football, so I was out of shape. It was terrible. And
right.
my spikes are digging in. It was wood, first of all. There was no synthetic surface, no nothing. It was wood. And it was I hated it. I just absolutely hated it. I think opening height was 6'4". just like Arcadia. So that wasn't intimidating, but I was out of shape. I couldn't get off the ground. It felt like my spikes were digging into the wood and not coming out. I was like,
Right.
oh my God, this is terrible. And so I never jumped indoors again until after college. I went back one time to LA Times indoor meet. I had to jump 7.2.5 just to get in. And I went there and went through the same thing. It was the same stuff. It was too tight. It was wood. And I was like, why did I work so hard to get back here? I hate this. I just hate it. So I was like, and then the problem was I always heard these great stories from guys like Lee Balkin and, some of the guys I jumped against that were like, they're traveling to Japan and to New York and they're going around the world. And they're like, yeah, when you go to Japan, they walk around on these wood floors and they like test them like bouncing, they go bounce, bounce, bounce. And then they go, let's put the standards right here. Like we'll get a super bouncy part of the floor. And they would take, the wood floor and they would put tartan over it. So not only did you get the loading of the floor bouncing, you had the nice surface where you could wear your spikes and just like being outdoors.
Right.
So I was like, where was that when I was jumping? I was jumping off the floor. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So anyway, well, if you've got a great place to train indoors, then I'm totally jealous. That's awesome. What does it look like? You said the campus is beautiful. Did you get a chance to go around the campus and check out the dorms and all that stuff?
Yeah, I got a chance to do all that. I didn't really check out the dorms because I'll be staying in an apartment when I go there.
Okay. So you live off campus?
Yeah. Well, it's basically off campus, or technically off campus, but it's maybe a 2-minute walk to the track stadium. It's right across the street.
Right. Nice.
Really nice.
And then are you planning? I mean, these are all questions you may or may not have thought about now since I've been through all this stuff. Are you planning on working while you're going to be there, or is the scholarships going to take care of everything? You won't have to work. You can just train and go to school.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not planning on working while I'm there. I'll see about the off season. I just recently quit my job that I had, but I've saved up some money to hold me off until the off season to see if I need another job or not. But yeah, the scholarship it's a pretty nice one. I'm pretty happy with this.
Are you gonna fly out there? Are you gonna drive your car out there? What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna fly out there. I'll be flying out there.
So you're gonna leave all transportation behind. So you got to get yourself a bike or a scooter or something that you won't kill yourself on. When I was in college, I was like, I'm gonna get a motor scooter, one of those mopeds, like back in the 80s. And my mom was like, no, you can't have that. You kill yourself. I'm like, I want to get a motorcycle. No, you can't have that. You're gonna kill yourself. I'm like, oh. So it never came around. Nobody ever wanted me to do anything that was gonna kill me. But
it's never too late.
Right. I know. I'm a grown man. I should be able to get a motorcycle I want.
There you go.
So, hey, tell us. I was excited to hear about this because I believe now that you've met Barbara Bachaka, who came down to train with me last year from Canada, and she made her travel team to the Bahamas, and she said was just crowing about you, she goes, oh, Marcus was so much fun, and he's got full of energy, and I'm like, yeah, I've had him on a podcast. Oh my gosh, we got to get him back. So how did you guys got a chance to talk and everything there?
Yeah, definitely.
Tell me about the Bahamas, because she was bummed because she had been injured, but she still went. And so fill us in on what happened there.
Yeah, so I mean, I got to meet Barbara. She's super cool. I love her. I enjoyed my time with her. She was super cool. Definitely
awesome,
one of those people you could see being like a lifelong friend, like just a genuinely happy and careful person.
Yes, absolutely.
But for the Bahamas, it was a kind of tricky situation to start. So when they flew me in on a red eye, so and I have a problem sleeping on planes, so I stayed up the whole time because I flew in and then I had like a 6 or 5 hour layover in Florida, I believe it was.
Yeah, that's too.
I just stayed up the whole flight from California to Florida and then Florida to the Bahamas. I just stayed up the whole time, and then I got there and I've been up for like some odd many hours, and then we had a problem with the hotel with checking in because I got there earlier than some of my other teammates and later than some others, and we had a problem checking in. They like with the rooms and stuff. So it started off bad. I didn't sleep for like 24, 25 hours my first day out.
Yeah.
Stressful, and then like my shower wouldn't work. But I understand that, like that island that we were at, it went through a lot. So I wasn't stressing about it at all. Like my roommate, luckily, he was a good handyman, so he kind of fixed the shower.
Right.
But it was all good. Like after that, literally after the first day or two, everything just I kind of relaxed in, settled in, everything just went so smoothly. Like really couldn't have asked for more. Besides maybe new PR in my meet because I was super nervous. I was super nervous leading up to the track meet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm jumping against all these big names, everybody I used to watch on TV, everything, and I was
Right.
like, okay, it's
Well,
my
who was
time.
there, man? Drop some names. I want to hear some of these names. Like,
Django Levette was there, from Canada. Luis
mhm.
Zayas from Cuba, he was there.
Right.
The national record holder for Puerto Rico was there as well. All people I'm jumping against.
And
Donald
you knew
Thomas.
him already, right? Had you
Yeah,
jumped against him before? Yeah, I
yeah,
remember you
I've
talking about
known
him.
Luis Joel a
Uh-huh.
long time. Yeah, and then
Right.
Donald Thomas from the Bahamas. So it was a bunch of big names of people who've all jumped 230 plus like multiple
Right.
times. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, it made me feel like nervous at the start, but when it like came time to check in and go, I was like, okay, I'm here for a reason. Like I have a
Right.
good that's probably one of my best like things is mentally I can really get like in the right space really easy.
Right.
So
Cool.
that was
What was the opening height?
the opening height was I believe it was 205, but yeah, 205.
Okay.
So yeah, I came
Not
in
too
at
crazy.
205. Think I cleared everything first try up until 213.
Mm-hmm.
And then I missed it once and made it, I think. I can't really remember that well. And then I made 216. And I was actually nervous because I wasn't supposed like, yeah, of course I'm always supposed to jump high, but I've been having like I took a month off after my season and then
Right.
kind of had like a few weeks of training getting into it. Like I wasn't even jumping at high bars or anything
Not
before.
sharp yet. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wasn't like expecting the world. I was more expecting like the experience and just do as best as I can. But
Right.
then I ended up tying my PR and I was like, oh, I can get a new PR. And at that
Right.
219 jump, oh, I was so close. I was
Yeah.
so close to 219.
Oh, that's awesome. So now what have you learned? This was a hard experience for me. And those of you out there listening again, this is Raise the Bar with Troy Haynes with our special guest Marcus Gelpi for the second time, our first repeat guest. And this is an interesting topic because when you're a young, inexperienced jumper, you find that, I find with my jumpers, I tell them, look, early in the season, I don't care about misses and makes. I don't care about a whole lot. I'm like, let's just start jumping and let's get a lot of video. And you can open low. I don't care if you're over it by 6 inches, whatever. We'll kind of jump our way through stuff,
Right.
and kind of learn things on the fly. But as you become more experienced, not only throughout the season, but then just experience throughout your life, more of, what you can and can't do. And there's certain things that, you get more comfortable with. Like Barb and I were talking about this. I said, there's lots of things that I like to do in my warm up. I like to jog my couple laps and I like to do my running drills and I like to, and I started integrating some things. I'm like, something I never did, but I wish I had stuck a jump rope in my bag, and did some like speed skipping or some really fast, easy plyos, both 2 legs and 1 leg. And then, maybe some really quick, just some agility drills, some of the newer stuff. And, even hurdle mobilities or, whatever it is. And
Right.
so you develop your own thing. Like everybody kind of, in high school, everybody's thrown together, right? They go, okay, team stretch. We all run out there, you jog together and everybody's doing the same thing. And some guys are just, lollygagging their way through it. And then there's people like you that are more serious and, they have their thing. So it's like, there's that. And then there is, how do I warm up and compete? There's warm up and then there's like run throughs and pop-ups and, the stuff that you do
Yeah.
to get ready. Right. So, and you find that that's always changing on you when you're young because you get to these different meets and there's like a certain way that they do things, right? The bar is going to only be at certain heights or you have to ask for it to be moved or, like my brain immediately went to, I wonder what these guys were like. Were they trying to bully you around? Were they like going, okay, we're only going to put the bar at 7.2 and take jumps at that. And then you don't get to take a jump, there's all kinds of things that go on. So the thing that I was interested in was you said you jumped 213,
Mhm.
you went 216, you go 219. And then I remember high school as well as you do that most of the time in California, they don't tell you that they're going up in 5 centimeter increments, although they probably were, but they just tell you roughly that it's 6'4", 6'6",
Yeah.
6'8", even though it could be 6'4" and 3/4, 6'6¾" because that's 2 meters, 2 meters 5, 6'8¾". They really tell you when, at least when I was in high school, I think either A, they didn't expect us to know the metric system, or B, they just didn't care. They just kind of rounded it to the closest thing. And the thing that I remember was, well, 2 inches, there's a lot of space in those 2 inches. You come to learn later, 5 centimeters of space is 5 possible places where you could jump. And so,
Right.
and you hear people about going, oh, I like to switch to the odds. What was the odds in high school? Well, that's 6'7", 6'9", 6'11". So it's like, okay. And I've been interested because I'm watching all these things pan out at these big meets. So they go, usually I see the bar goes probably 215, 220, 225. So they go 5, 5, 5. And then all of a sudden they go from 225 to either 228 or 229. So they start going by fours, then they go
Right.
threes, then they go twos, right? And it depends on the meet and this and that. But I remember thinking, first of all, when you're really, really good, you don't want to take all of those jumps.
Right.
I mean, 5 centimeter skips are 5 centimeter skips. So to me, that's the interesting part. And the more interesting part to me would be instead of them going 5 and doing all the conventions that they have, I would be like, why don't we just pick a number that's smaller than 5, like maybe 3 centimeters, and go by 3 the whole way through. But that would force people to pass, because
Right.
you can't possibly jump every height. So
Right.
it seems to me it would be a little bit more intriguing to have, say, a bunch of people that either they randomly assign you to one group or the other, which doesn't make any sense because it kind of takes free will out of it. But if you said, hey, we're starting at 209 and then it goes 212, 215, 218, 221, it's like, no way, if you're an accomplished jumper like yourself, are you going to jump all of those? Like
Right.
your early plan might be, oh, well, I guess I'll open at 209 and then I'll skip to 215. Now, that's kind of difficult too when you think about it, because that's more than a 2-inch skip, right? So
Right.
you go 6 centimeters, but I just think it would be interesting to have, 2 people flip-flopping. Like if you're
Yeah,
going
no, that
against the
makes
guy
sense.
from Puerto Rico, the record holder, right? And you jump 209 and he jumps 212 and then you jump 215, you're going back and forth, taking the lead from each other, right?
Yeah.
Instead of jumping at the same height. So anyway, it's a long discussion, but I find that interesting. And then, the whole thing about, again, how, like, saying how close you were at 219,
Mhm.
my brain was like going, okay, so if he went from 219, back, and like you said, you jumped 216,
16, yeah.
but they were going by threes, right? So
Yeah.
216 and 213. So you went 7 feet, you went 7-1, and you took basically it's 7-2,
2.25, yeah.
7-2.25. That's right. So it's 218 at 7-2.
Yeah, I
Right.
believe so.
Something like that. Yeah, I could never, like I said, they never, even in college, they didn't tell us. They just go, oh, it's 7-2. And then later on, I found out it's 2.25, it's 2.5. So they never trusted us with anything. All right. Well, so you matched your PR
Mhm.
and you took really good jumps at 7-2. Now, who
Yeah.
was the big dog at the meet? Who won that day?
So I believe Zayas from Cuba won.
Mm-hmm.
He won, and Django Levette took second, or that was flip flopped one or the other
Right.
way.
And what
And
did they get up over? Were they up over 5 or 6 or
I think
something?
they were up over 227. I think that's what they were jumping at, 227.
Okay.
And then third place was
225 is 7.4.5, right? So they were up in the 5 and 6 range. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, and
I still
then
don't know all my metrics. You can tell I'm terrible at it.
no, me neither. I'm still learning as well.
Right.
And third place was Donald Thomas from the Bahamas.
Yeah. Now, yeah, you're right. I've heard a lot of those names. So, and then did you stay and watch the women? Did the
Yeah.
women go before you guys or after you guys?
I think they went on a complete different day than us. I think they went the day before us.
Okay.
Yeah. So I watched the women. Yeah.
So yeah, Barbara told me that she was there. She got to meet Vashti. She got to meet, is it Vashti or Vashti? I always mess that up.
I couldn't tell you.
I'm a terrible host. I never know anybody's name. All right. Well,
It's okay.
she got to meet Miss Cunningham and several others. So that was nice. And well, that was a big eye opener for her. Traveling. I was like, man, I never got to go anywhere. I mean, we got to go some places from UCLA. I think the farthest east I made it was to Indianapolis my senior year for the NC2A. So that was as far back as I went traveling to compete, but I never left, never jumped a pond, never jumped, down through the Caribbean or anything like that and got to go anywhere else. The Bahamas, that's so cool. So, okay, now you rode that, and this guy, the coach Cliff at K-State,
Mhm.
did he mention having seen you jump there? How did he come to find out about you?
Yeah, so I sent him videos because this is already after we were talking, and I already had like the visit set up for after that. I sent him videos of how I did there, and he was pretty impressed.
Yeah. But before then, like you said, how'd you get on his radar if he didn't know about you from the Bahamas?
So I got on his radar. Just he randomly, I guess, ended up calling Jeremy Fisher.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. Okay. So you said Jeremy was the guy. Jeremy's great. I
yeah,
love
he's a great guy,
does
and he
great work
loves.
down there.
I'm sorry, what?
No, I said he does great work down there, and then he's always it seems like he's always about helping you guys,
Yeah,
to the next level, which is, I love to see that. Anything that promotes the sport, track and field. So the other thing that I was getting to was, now that you've gotten yourself to K-State, everything is starting to change. The landscape of college sports is really starting to change because of this NIL stuff, right? I mean,
yeah,
there's already people that are getting. I saw right away, everybody, the rich gets richer. I'm looking at is it Bryce Young from Alabama? Made two Dr. Pepper commercials already and was great in them. Right? He's
right,
looks like a total natural. Like, um, takes over the one guy's house, and he comes home and he's like, she goes, oh, here you go, mom. She's like, mom. And she's like, oh, that's just a little nickname he came up for me. And the dad looks over and he goes, he came up with dad for me. Like, wow, and you're just like I'm going, this guy's what, a junior or he might be even a sophomore. I think he might have won it last year as a freshman. So he's either sophomore or junior, and he's already making millions of dollars in commercials,
oh
right?
yeah,
So, name, image, and likeness. Now, football still rules the roost here as the big money sport that's going to get these kinds of things, but it's not going to take people long to catch up. Everybody's got an agent anymore. I mean, one of my clients is a 13-year-old who she can throw a football like a guy. She plays soccer. She does all these sports, and I was talking to her mom. I said, have you gotten an agent? She goes, yeah, we've had an agent for a couple of years already. I'm like, she's in the 8th grade. And I would actually feel like, not surprised. I was almost like, if you don't have an agent, you need to get one,
right.
because I think she can write her own ticket, so is there anything happening in that area? As as a good looking kid like yourself, and you're comfortable on camera and you talk well, so anything you're thinking about there?
I'm still trying to work on that. I have nothing like solidified right now, but I have like a few talks back and forth with some like newspapers and
Mm-hmm.
like or not newspapers, magazines and like sporting goods stores back in Puerto Rico that I'm trying to work with, but
Nice.
we still got to see like we still got to see, make sure everything makes sense for everybody, but
Right.
yeah, as until like I have stuff like solidified, I'm just focused on like growing my social media following a lot, trying to work on that because that helps a lot too. So
Sure. Yeah. Well, the good thing is being aware of it, right? And then trying to get out in front of the whole process. And then, just like anything else, I mean, this is America. So sometimes it doesn't matter what you can do. It's kind of how you look doing it. But at the
yeah,
same time, in the world of sports, it is still performance, dominant. Although you can be a super great athlete, and if you don't have the ability to be comfortable on camera or speak intelligently when they stick the mic in front of you, then it doesn't matter how good you are, right? It's just they might find a way to get you to do something in a commercial where they just see you for a second. But right, if you can talk, so much the better, right?
yeah, agreed, definitely agreed. Yeah,
Pretty amazing. I just see the possibilities so much more. I mean, my roommate when I was at UCLA my first year, I roomed with a gentleman named Dwayne Washington, who we both went to the same high school. And he was a 48-foot triple jumper, and I was, a 6'10" high jumper. So we both ended up walking on at UCLA, and they stuck us together as roommates. Seemed like a natural, right? And it was funny because we were great roommates, but we never saw each other. Like, he ran with a guy all the time. My name is blanking right now. I should remember. Shane Mack. He hung out with a guy named Shane Mack, who was on the Olympic, ended up being on the Olympic baseball team. And I believe after winning a gold medal, I think he played on with the Twins and might have won a world championship. I mean, these guys were good athletes, obviously.
Right.
And but we would stay up when he finally would get home from whatever him and Shane were doing. They were like this, all the way through college that I remember. Um, going playing basketball, doing whatever they were doing. I don't even remember what Dwayne's major was, but we would get home later at night and sit and talk, finally catch up on the day. And it was like that whole, the dreams and aspirations, like, yeah, I want to go to the Olympics. I want to get on a Wheaties box. Cause I mean, this is 1982. This is like 6 years after seeing Bruce Jenner, then
Right.
Bruce Jenner, the original Bruce Jenner, with his, big buff body on a Wheaties box, and
Right.
just the gold medal at the Montreal Olympics in the decathlon. Right. And that was just like, oh my God. Oh my God, I want to be on a Wheaties box just like that,
Right.
and make all this money. So, you listen to those things and you think about it and you want to do it. And then, you find out that the competition is pretty fierce. And, the weird thing about the Olympics as your launching pad is if you don't win gold, probably not going to get, much. And
Right.
even the ones that do win gold don't get that much compared to
Right.
some other sports. So, but I think now I'm starting to feel the ground shaking and moving, and things are going to happen. It's probably still going to be a trickle down effect, but hopefully it'll be a bigger trickle down
Right.
effect than it's been. You know what I mean? So, well, what is it that you're going to major in now? Did you find something that you like there at K-State?
Yeah. So I'm going to be majoring in sociology. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then what would you like to do with that? Do you want to, it's a dumb leap to always just go, well, are you can be a social worker? But I know there's way more applications than just that coming out of sociology.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, I've always had a thing for helping out like people who are less fortunate than me and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been talking a little bit, and me and my friend, we kind of have like, because he's a sociology major as well up at Oregon State.
Mm-hmm.
And he has this big bright idea for like a kind of like a resource city center to like help inner city kids like, escape
Right.
their places and expose them to different things, like show that the world's really bigger than where they may be. So I'd want
Right.
to like get along with that and do something with that.
So that would be once your career's over at K-State. Now, is that's going to be up in Oregon?
No, we were thinking about doing it possibly down in San Diego or even
Okay.
the Bay Area or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, interesting. So, man, there's a lot of things on the radar for you. My brain just keeps ticking them off. I'm like, okay, so Marcus jumped 7-1. He's almost jumped 7-2. Now, what's they're going to have, there's an Olympics coming up here pretty quick. We've got, this is 2022. So 2024 is coming up. And that means, this next year is kind of a weird year, but, you're still going to want to be progressing along and doing what you're doing. But is it still that the B standard is right around 220 and the A standard is, anything
So
above that pretty much?
yeah, so the A standard, I think it said 233 or 234 or something crazy high,
Way up
which
there. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I respect it. But from what I've heard, I've heard that there isn't a B standard at all. I heard that the B standard is being or supposed to be replaced with points. I don't understand the
Huh.
point system
Okay.
exactly, but that's
That's a,
kind of what I've been hearing around. It's still up in the air because no one has
mhm.
anything in cement. But yeah, I mean, hey, that would be a dream. But I mean, I'm willing to do what it takes to work and try to get myself there. I know I got a
Right.
long way to go.
Well, the only reason that I brought that up, and again, just if you guys are staying with us, we're here on Raise the Bar with Marcus Gelpi. He's originally from Sacramento. He went to Santa Rosa Junior College. Is that right?
No,
Right.
so I'm from the Sacramento area, but I'm from a town called Dixon, California. It's super small. It's like
Right.
dead center between Sacramento and Oakland, like area.
Okay.
But I went to Diablo Valley College
Diablo Valley
in
College.
Concord, California, in the Bay Area. Yeah.
Okay. You're in the Bay Area. So you were up there and then you stayed up there all the way through this last year and then you're moving, or that was
Yeah.
that.
So, yeah.
Now, did
Eventually.
you win the state this year with that
Yes.
7-1
I jumped 210 to win the state.
state meet? Okay. So I remember one year when I'd been out of college for 3 or 4 years and was working at Orange Coast College.
Mhm.
And, we got to the state meet. We always had a few athletes from Orange Coast get there.
Right.
And they asked me if I would run the high jump. And I was like, yeah, that'd be a blast.
Right.
And it was a great state meet. I don't remember the people that were there, but there were 3 kids that jumped 7.2 that
Mhm.
day. So that was a really solid state meet. And it's always fun to run a high level meet, especially when you know what you're doing. I'm always amazed at how many, people can run the high jump varying degrees from
Right.
completely incompetently to well. But yeah, so you won state. That's awesome. And then my brain just keeps ticking off the steps up the ladder. So I remember in '84 was my sophomore year, and it was the first year that I ever jumped 7 feet. So I tell the story to people before. They go, well, you jumped 7.2 that year. Why didn't you go to the trials? And I'm like, well, trial height was two when I jumped 218. I jumped 7.2. So I think the trial height was 7.4 1/4. So 4 1/4, whatever that is again, I don't know. So
Right.
it was significantly, not significantly higher than I jumped, but this was the weird part because that year my freshman year was terrible. That was the redshirt terrible year. So
Right.
I jumped less my freshman year than I had I think except for my junior, and I think I jumped 6.8 once basically the whole year. Terrible year, and so wasted time. Well, my sophomore year, all of a sudden I shot back up. I went to 7 feet, and then I went 7.2. And at the very end of the year, once that was all done, I went to Pac-10s for the first time, and it was pretty much a pretty solid year. I ended up getting myself on scholarship, and was ready to go. And it was so weird. But somebody goes, that it was 1984. The Olympic trials are here in LA. I was watching these athletes train from all over the world on our track,
Mhm.
during the season. And so it's like, oh yeah, the trials, and I'm like, it's like it hadn't even gone across my radar because my radar had been, I had a really crappy year. I really wanted to jump 7 feet, and 7.2 was like way more than I thought at the
Mhm.
beginning of the year. And then all of a sudden, it's like, if you jump 4 1/4, you can go to the games. And it was like to the trials. And I'm like, really? Oh, cool. And I tried a couple meets, but it had been a long season, and I wasn't peaked, and so
Yeah.
mentally, I think it was just different. It wasn't on my radar at all, so just like I'm getting it out there. So, all right, I'm trying to motivate Marcus to go to the trial. So, but the weird thing is there was no B standard that I remember. It was like it was 4 1/4 in 1984, and then in '88 it was up to 5 1/4 or 4 3/4. I think it was 5 1/4, which is what 225 is 4.5. So I don't remember. It was up there, and
Yeah.
so
Big bar.
I remember talking we've had as a guest here on Raise a Bar, Robert Atwater, who jumped at an NAIA school and jumped 2.5 or something indoors, or, when he was jumping. And I think he was in high school, if I remember right. And he got invited to the trials because that was the B standard, and he
Yeah.
actually jumped in the Olympic trials back in 2016 or 2020. I can't remember which. But anyway, I should listen to my own show. So yeah, he jumped, and that's been the B standard now for a while. Because I remember Tyler Arroyo was saying that too, that there was the B standard was still 220, and then the A standard for him and Jumpman Wesner and those guys
Mhm.
was still 5.5, I think, or five and a
Right.
quarter.
That's actually kind of crazy that you brought up that point. Because one of my teammates who I'll be jumping with at Kansas State in high school, he went to the trials as well. He jumped 220 in high school, I believe, or
Mm-hmm.
221. So
Yeah.
he went to the trials, and that was like I didn't even notice it until like one of these times I was rewatching because I watch a lot of high jump on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube TV as much as I could see, and I was
Right.
watching it. I was like, wait, I know him. So
Right.
yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's what a privilege, right? To make it to the trials as a senior in high school or whatever you happen to be. I
Mhm.
think Vashti Cunningham was one. She made the team, 5 or 6 years ago as a senior in high school, coached by her dad. And then way back in the day, I believe Dwight Stones made the 1972 team as an 18-year-old senior. So he jumped in 72, he jumped in 76. He would have jumped in 80, but we boycotted, and he came back and jumped in 84. So by far in the U.S. made the most Olympic teams of anybody that I've been able to watch. So interesting, right? As a high school senior, maybe oblivious, maybe obliviousness is blessed, right? Because you're just jumping, and
Right.
it's like, hey, all these old guys are here. Like, it doesn't matter. I got a lot of stretch. So
Mhm.
you were telling me now, Marcus, about something you mentioned different training, and then you mentioned gymnastics or something. So fill us in on how what's this radical new training that you're going to be doing?
Yeah, so I mean, I've already started. So he gave me Coach Clifford Velto gave me a big binder of all these workouts, practices, pretty much everything I need to know. And he told me I didn't have to follow it directly because he trusted my coach, because him and my coach, they get along. So
Mm-hmm.
he trusted my coach kind of ahead of time. But he said if I wanted to like use it for like reference to kind of ease my way up into there, because like as soon as I get there, I'm pretty much going to be jumping 10 days after I arrive.
Right, right,
So if I wanted to like get used to workouts and stuff like that, then I should follow that. So I started doing that, and it's a lot of differences. Like, there's more heavy weights. There's some more upper body work that I've never really found the need to work on, but
right.
it works for him. So I mean, if he believes it's gonna work, and I'm gonna trust my coach all the way. So I'm been following that, which is new.
Now, the upper body work, is it designed to help you get your arms up over your head, or is it just designed to? I'm just curious, because I was a power jumper, so I was, gather and boom, big arms. So
Right.
I don't have any problem with big arms, but I do remember that I was a lot heavier than most of the guys I jumped against. I was 195. I remember talking, and Jumpman Wesner is one of the few that he told me he felt better at 205 than he did at 190. So he likes to be a little bit heavier, and
Right.
he's dunking from behind the free throw line. So I'm like,
Yeah.
what's it, if you're 205 and you dunk from behind the free throw line, then I get it. Um, but I've kind of mentally made that switch a while back, because I was kind of brainwashed by both Del Davis and Lee Balkin when I was at UCLA. All they ever told me was I was way too heavy. They were like I was a jumbo jet, right? And they were like private jets. They were like sleek and fast,
Right.
like this big lumbering, 6'3.5", 195 pounder. And it's funny because all my life, all I've ever heard was that I was skinny.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
hate the
I
word
hate it too.
skinny when it's applied to me. I hate it. So
I
it's like
hate it.
they go, "Yeah, you're skinny." I'm like, "I'm not skinny." I'm like, I squat 400 pounds. I'm benching 300. I'm not skinny. And
Right.
so and then amongst high jumpers, it was the other thing. Anybody else, you were skinny. Amongst high jumpers, I had guys walk up to me like, "Dude, are you a decathlete?" I'm
Right.
like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "What do you weigh? Like 210 pounds?" I'm like, "No, man, I'm like 195." It
Right.
was so funny, but you're jumping against some guys that are just sticks. You know,
Yeah.
Lee Balkin was 6'4", maybe 160,
Hmm.
165. Not built like Barshim, but definitely not built as heavy as I was.
Right.
Del Davis was 6'2", maybe 150, I think.
Mhm.
155. I don't know. So it's funny. You talk about body types, and I'm a big believer in strength to weight ratio. And if you can get away with being lighter, as long as you have the ability to move fast and you
Right.
have the power to get there, because everybody thinks that all the time. I'm sure you've seen it. You've probably jumped against guys 5 or 6 inches taller than you that have no hops. And you're
Yeah.
thinking, man, this big guy, he looks pretty intimidating. And you watch him take one jump, you're like, nah.
Yeah. Not an issue. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have any hops. And then you're jumping against some. Oh, where's a kid? A friend of mine, Stephen Williams. Stephen, if you're out there listening, we need to get you on another podcast. He was he's a coach from Downey High School down here, and he was at
Yeah. I know him. I get along with him really well. He's a
yeah,
great
he
guy.
was at Cal State Fullerton,
Yep.
last year, and great guy. And he had this little kid, I swear, couldn't have been more than 5'5", and he was a 6'2" jumper, and he was
Wow.
always so much more impressive than everybody else, because you're watching him going, this guy's going way over his head,
Hmm.
he just wasn't super tall, but he was fast, and he would hit vertical, and he could wait, before he got into his layout and everything. So that was always more impressive. But yeah, the strength to weight ratio is big, and I always worry about the sacrifice between power and strength to weight is everything, because I tell my jumpers this all the time. I said, God gave birds hollow bones for a reason. There's a reason why,
Yeah.
because you don't want to carry that extra weight if you don't have to, you know.
Right.
And I think about Zion Williamson, right? That his freshman year at Duke when he just blew out of that shoe and it
Mm-hmm.
just exploded, and you're like, that shoe wasn't made for a guy like that,
Yeah.
like, but I mean, talk about a guy that can get in the air, right? The classic power jumper, but you're like, would you really want to carry that weight? Because my experience is after a little while, man, it's too much,
Yeah,
like,
for a long season and even
yeah.
multiple seasons on end. Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah. So he just come out of high school. Then he goes to Duke, and Duke, they're going to play, a 40 game schedule, right? And then you
Mhm.
leave the 40 game schedule, you go right into pros that have an 80 game schedule. And what
Yep,
happens? First career major injury almost immediately,
out of
right?
there. Yeah,
Yeah. So I think that strength to weight ratios, there's a lot to it, and the extra force being applied against the ground. And then, think of all the big guys that had bad feet, you
yeah,
know, Bill Walton, one of the greatest college centers ever, UCLA guy. I always got to throw out some of my Bruins, but
right.
no argument. One of the greatest college centers ever. Immediately follows Kareem, who had 3 titles at UCLA. The only reason Kareem didn't have 4 was they didn't let the freshmen play back in his day, so he had
Mhm.
to wait a year and then won 3 titles. And then they followed that up with Walton, who immediately won 3 titles.
Right.
He was great, but he got into the pros, and within a year or two, he led the Portland Trailblazers to their only NBA title. And a year or two after that, he was out of the league for a couple of years because he had stress fractures in his feet, and here's a 7'2" guy, right? So he's all stretched out and you get bad feet. And then who's the other one that was like, there's been a couple. Yao Ming
Mhm.
from China was 7'6", big dude too, like not
Yeah.
skinny like you would think.
Right. Yeah.
He had problems with his feet, all the time. So that's my brain is always going, okay, there's a trade-off there, between the strength to weight ratio and how much force you can put through those
Right.
legs.
Yeah.
So you guys you're going to lift heavy. And now talk about this gymnastics stuff. I'm curious, what kind of gymnastics are we doing?
Yeah. So at first, I just did it just because I thought it would be something fun, and I ended up taking some videos and I ended up really learning, and I figured like how to because I just wanted to learn how to do a backflip. I always wanted to learn how to do a backflip. I know I
Right.
can do one, but mentally I want to learn how to do a backflip. I don't know why. I just feel
Right.
like it's a fun thing to learn, and so I went to a gymnastics like after session one day, paid $10, and basically I was just being taught how to backflip, and so I started taking some videos, and I was like, wait, hold on, I can see how this could sort of translate like
Mm-hmm.
into my over the bar work because I know not all the time my arc over the bar isn't really perfect. I kind of
Uh-huh.
like lumber over it instead of
Right.
getting there. And I was looking at myself backflip, like my head straight back,
Right.
like everything was looking like in line. I sent the video to my coach, and because at first he was against me trying to backflip because he didn't want me to get hurt.
Right.
And sent it to him, even though he told me not to go do it. And he was like, "Wait, that could actually work," like stuff
Yeah.
like that. And then, you could add a lot of bounding into it on the little like bouncing trampolines, like the small, like
Right.
kind of
Right.
flatboard ones. So
Yeah.
I and it was really like pretty much a full body workout, something I definitely did not expect. So I liked it a lot, and so I just started
Uh-huh.
going back about once, twice a week. So I feel like I've learned a lot from it, gained a lot of flexibility and stuff like that.
Flexibility, yeah, that's huge. Now, one of the things that I've been trying to stress in my program writing is, it's easy for me to talk power. It's easy for me to talk plyos. It's easy for me to talk speed. But the part that nobody wants to deal with is injuries. So, how do we keep from both chronic and overuse injuries, right? Which is usually just volume, but there are some things that you can do. Like I follow the knees over toes guy, right? And I follow a lot
Right.
of those guys that are showing the exercises that, I was attracted to that first off. So I'm like, I remember doing the tibialis raises, and that really helped me with my shin splints. And this is back in the 80s, so those aren't
Right.
anything new. But then I'm seeing some new equipment, I'm seeing some new cool things, and then I'm watching these reverse Nordics where you drop back. I'm like, oh wow, you'd have to be really flexible through your ankles and this. And then I'm watching low intensity plyos in the sand. We never did that. And I'm like, that's a pretty good idea. Maybe we go low intensity and do a bunch of them and build up some tendon strength, and maybe even start using some weights in the sand. And, it just seems like everything's progressed, quite a bit. Joint stability, hip mobility, right? There's joint stability stuff. I follow all kinds of different chiropractors and physical therapy people, so they're showing, because my back is jacked up from all those years of jumping. So, I'm learning all these thoracic things. I'm like, oh, I wish I'd have done those, back in the day, because
Right.
I landed on my neck wrong one time, and it still gives me trouble. And like, okay, I need to learn some stretches for that. And so, there's a proliferation of stuff. But that flexibility you're talking about, this is something I just put out a Zoom class. The second one, we just did the flight phase. When I break down with my athletes at training, I go, there's straight, curve, takeoff mechanics, flight, and then layout. And I said, for me, the higher the bar goes, the more this order needs to be obeyed, because one has to precede the other. You cannot rush from one thing to the next. I can't do my curve until I run my straight. I can't take off till I finish my curve. I can't fly until I take off, and I can't lay out until I'm done flying. And I said, when the bar keeps going up, the flight time is the only thing that I think that gets longer than all the other parts, right?
Yeah.
It keeps getting longer by necessity. It just has to. So as the bar keeps going up, we got to wait longer before layout. And I've got so many athletes that are in the middle of their takeoff, heads already
leaning. Yep.
They're already going towards the bar. And I'm like, no. This has got to wait. You can't be in a hurry, right? You got to be patient. And I love when I see guys like Barshim and some of these other guys that are just a mile out. I mean, you were looking at them going, they're nowhere near the bar.
Right.
And they got time to finish going up. And they finish going up. And then I said, the game that I'm trying to teach my kids is, look, not just kids, Barbara and others as well. But I just picked up a new client who's 70 years old. He wants to try to break the Masters record for 70-year-olds. I'm like, let's go.
Let's do it.
Right? I love it. I love somebody with a goal like that. It's great. Jim Baker, if you're out there, we're talking about you. So, the idea for me, and again, the inherent advantage of someone who's tall versus someone who's small is higher center of mass before they get off the ground, right? And then if I can get really tall, take off arms, knee drive, everything way up on my toe, I'm really, really tall and I'm off the ground. And if I'm not converting towards the bar, I've bought myself time, which is all wonderful. But now, once you're going up and you're starting to fly, there's something that needs to happen, and that is almost immediate. You need to get small,
right?
Like you're talking about, and I can't do it a front ball, so I have to do a reverse ball. And the reverse ball for me is getting those arms back down, either on top of my hips or whatever. Or I'm kind of fascinated by the people that are reaching and connecting to their heel, because I like that position also, because as long as I'm in this kind of a loop, a circular loop position, whether my hands are outside of it or inside of it or connected to my foot, with my head back and out of the way, hopefully, right? So I want to be in this with nothing sticking out, no arms, and my head should be back in. And if everything streamlines, I'm going to spin quicker up on top, right? So I get that rotation, and I'm always trying to get, I call it the Omega position. You just picture the Indianapolis Colts, horseshoe,
right?
Big hoop, a big horseshoe. The hips are way up here, nose and toes are out there, right? And the top of my head's pointing straight down, hopefully. I've seen Barshim, and it looks to me like his eyes are looking straight at the ground, which is almost hyper that way. But, at what I call the 9-3 position, where your head and your feet are on the same level, I'm like, if you ever get these jumps where your head is actually lower than your feet and your hips, and you really start to rotate through there, that's like, it was curious, because this is the point I was trying to get to. Sometimes my brain wanders me there, and it drives my wife crazy. When she asks me a question, sometimes I'll start rambling, and she's like, is there an end? I'm like, we'll get there eventually.
We're getting there.
We're getting there. So the thing that I was thinking of, Marcus, when you were talking about the gymnastics, I'm like, there's a lot of things that I want in my my jump facility, if I can ever build one. And that is cameras going straight down the bar, from either side, so I can see the catapult angle, I call it. And then, at least one camera from straight out from the bar, so I can see your lean back angle, right? You send me a lot of great shots like that, by the way. And I like that one. And then I want cameras overhead, so I can see the curve, right? Which you hardly ever get to see. And then I want force plates on the ground because I want to measure how long we're on the ground and how much force we're exerting. Those are all great things. I would love to have those. Of course, I don't have any of that because track and field doesn't have that kind of money in it. But here's my last thing on the wish list is a training facility like what you're talking about where you're doing gymnastics. So I want to have the kind of ropes that they have on trapeze artists when they do their things, like you see them, they're up on and they jump up and they start spinning around,
Right.
Catch. Well, before they do that without the ropes, they do it with the ropes and they work on their timing and everything else, right? And their body positions, they're doing backflips, right? And they're reaching blindly with their hands or whatever and getting caught. So if they miss, you've got somebody on one side or the other with a rope and pull, and they keep them from killing themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I want to get that kind of a setup when you're doing that reverse backflip that you're talking about, where you go, look, hey, just go up and hold that position and we'll just hold you up there. You know, just pull on either side and you just get into one of those, you know, and feel that position. And then we'll experiment on how to get you to rotate around so you can almost feel it, right? Yeah, and hold it. Because that's the one thing you always hear people go, oh, you need to hold your arch longer. And I'm always like, I go, okay, there's a problem with that in my mind, because if I'm holding my arch longer, it means I started too early.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because if you can get, as the bar goes higher, I shouldn't have to arch my way over. I should be able to get my knee drive and get my hips up to where the bar is and then go into my layout and then come out of it. And that should be another part of your jump that's relatively the same all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, you know, what are you going to do? You made 225, let's say, and you did it with a great layout and hips up and everything else. When the bar goes up to 230, are you going to be able to make it with the same jump that you made 225 with? You know, starting the layout at the same time? It doesn't make any sense to me. If I did that, I'm going to be out of position in something like this as the bar is going up, and then I'm going to have to hold it forever, right?
Right.
And what do you always see? Someone's in that position and they're waiting. And then when they finally let out of it, they drop right down on it anyway, because they started too early, right? So that was my idea for, you know, getting you into the position and then, you know, trying to get you to hold it longer. I get people that they're barely in that position before they're out of it, right?
Right.
So that's that core strength and everything else. Well, it sounds like you've got a lot of stuff happening. You're moving to a new school. You're do you have a support system there you've been introduced to, I'm sure. Now, did you get the chance to meet your prospective roommate or roommates?
I have no clue who. So it'll be a 2-bedroom, 2-bed. So I'd have one roommate. I have no clue who it's supposed to be. But I mean,
gonna be a track athlete like yourself?
It'll be some sort of athlete. Either it'll be baseball, football, basketball, or track. I'm hoping track, so that like schedules kind of work out the same. But I mean, I'm not stressing it too much. Just,
do they have a little place that's, you know, an off campus apartment that's for athletes? Kind of, it's almost like a dorm, right?
It's pretty much a dorm just for athletes. But yeah,
right.
It'll be fun.
That's pretty cool. Well, I tell you, I think you're gonna have a blast. I got my freshman year at UCLA. I was in Sproul. I was in Sproul Hall. Those of you Bruins that are out there listening, you remember Sproul Hall was right over the track at the it's now the Rayford Johnson track and the Ducky Drake Stadium, still Drake Stadium. And then they renamed the track after Rayford, who, God bless him, just passed away a couple of years ago, and maybe a little over a year ago. But anyway, up at Sproul, they put us, my freshman year, they stuck us on an athlete's floor. So I think I was on 4th or 5th hall. I can't remember, north or south wing. And all the athletes were almost every room was athletes. So that was a lot of fun. So there was like basketball players and, you know, everybody. I mean,
right.
I don't remember any, I don't think actually basketball. The guys right next to us were baseball and football. And one guy played both. And then Dell was on that floor and his roommate was a javelin thrower. He was a high jumper. Then they were spread everywhere, right? And it wasn't all athletes, but there were a lot. And then one of the first days, I remember walking down the hall, I see this girl doing a handstand right up against the wall, right? And I'm walking by and I go, what are you doing? And she goes, I'm practicing my handstands for my platform dive. I go, oh, you're a diver. Yeah. Jenny McMahon. never forget. She was a senior my freshman year, and cute curly hair. She always had wet hair, just from the pool. And she actually taught me how to do handstands. So I was, going up and trying, because her thing was getting this, right? You couldn't go up there with a weak low back,
Right.
wavering while you're doing it, because you had to hold a perfect handstand before you do anything, before you even kick off into your dive. So she was all like, yeah, get everything locked out. And then, once you're up here, you can balance just with your fingertips. I'm like, oh, cool. So I remember doing that. That was a lot of fun. But that again gets into a little bit of the gymnastics things. I got to see. It's good that we were talking about this, because I remember whatever happened. I used to make my athletes 15 years ago. I used to make them do handstands and walk around cones and stuff. See, I got to remember, these are things you forget. Sometimes new things come along and they replace the old things, and you forget what were some of the things that you used to do. All right, sir. Well, listen, hey, I really appreciate you taking the time, Marcus, again with us. I'm always excited to talk to you. You're always up, and I think nothing but the best of you. I think the world is your oyster. I'm waiting to see how this goes with your new coach. Be warm. Yeah. Everybody that I talk to right now goes, it is butt cold out there. You're in Kansas or Nebraska or anywhere in the Big Ten. It is cold. So I know it does get cold up north where you are. But
nothing like that.
Yeah. Right. So stay warm. I don't know if they got a jacuzzi there, but if you
I'll find one.
If you can get one in your room, so much the better, right?
Right.
Oh my goodness. Well, hey man, it's great talking with you as always. Let's stay in touch. Anything I can do, any kind of promotion, you got some videos, you want me to do some posts for you, I'm always happy to do that. And if you want to do I like doing these analysis posts. I don't know if you've seen any of those on my site. I asked this young Polish gal who's like jumped 5'9" or 10 already. She's only like 15. And she let me break down her videos, and she's got so many followers. Like every time I do it, she gets a couple thousand likes. So we've been looking at her cycling technique, and then I'm showing everybody what a great, short last step she's got, a good slide step, I call it. So anything like that would be great. And
I love that. Yeah, that'd be
all
great.
right, sir. Let's do it. Let's do it. If you got any of those jumps from the Bahamas, all right, especially your 7-1s or even the really good 7-2 misses. Those can be quite informative when they get broken down.
Definitely. I mean, it was an honor. I mean, thank you. I love doing this. I'd even be happy to do it again. I love doing this.
Hey, all right, man. Well, you could be our first triple guest. Well, what I really want to do is get Barbara to co-host, and she's still kind of sticking her toes in the water. She's a little bit more, not as Chad.
She'll come too. She'll come too. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, let's hope so. All right, we'll try for a co-host.
There we go. It's perfect.
All right, sir. Well, hey, Marcus, the best of luck to you. I like I said, I hope and wish nothing but the best for you, and stay healthy and happy, and working on. I love the sociology degree and the giving heart you have to want to work with other people and help people that are struggling for whatever reason, and all those things. I hope that all comes together. So
yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you soon.
And I'll talk to you soon.
Send those videos. All right. Thanks, Marcus.
Thank you.
All right. And that was young Marcus Gelpi, who is a California product. He's was born up in Sacramento. You heard him tell us, and went to Diablo Junior College up there, and has managed to get himself a ride to Kansas State. And he is he's already joined forces with the coach, and is already started his workouts, and is excited about the direction that he's going in. And sounds like he has a teammate that has already been to the U.S. Olympic trials in this past. So just a great wealth of opportunities there. And we're hoping the best that he, continues to improve, obviously. I think the first time I posted one of Marcus's jumps on my Sky High and Fly Jump Camp site, he was jumping 6'6" or 6'8" or something. And it seemed like he was one of those guys that would keep coming across my feed, and he was always jumping a new PR. So all of a sudden he's 6'8" and then a 6'9" and a 6'10. And, like you said, he ended up winning As a matter of fact, when he sent me his first things, he ended up getting noticed by someone from the Instagram feed on me showing that jump. And so I think that's how he got to the junior college. And then, obviously he's done all that work on his own and continued to improve and jumped 7-1 PR, won the state meet with 6'10", got to go to the Bahamas. He's with the part we did not talk about was that Marcus has dual citizenship, I believe, both here in the U.S. and in Puerto Rico. So he's already jumped, I believe, on the national team over there. So he knew a couple of those guys, apparently, both from the Puerto Rico team and then from some of the other teams down there when he went to the Bahamas meet. So anyway, great sharing time with Marcus. And again, hoping for nothing but the best. And with that, we're going to sign off. We have a third Zoom class coming up. So far, you may have heard me mention the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth phases of the high jump. We have the straight, the curve, the takeoff, the flight, which I just covered. And this next Zoom class, we're going to go specifically into layout, which you heard Marcus and I talking about a little bit. We'll talk about all kinds of ways to go from tall to small. So we'll be talking about that on the next Zoom class. And then, of course, we're getting here to the holidays and all that kind of stuff. But we're going to keep trying to get our great guests, these great athletes, sharing their insights and their motivations and their great jumps with you. And until next time, my name's Troy Haynes. This is Raise the Bar, the Sky High and Fly Jump Camps podcast. And we wish you the best. Until next time.